You can have the title, the salary, the influence and career trajectory, and still be dying from the inside out. My guest today didn't just hit a wall, he collapsed against it. And what he discovered on the other side of a 24-day water fast may completely reshape how you understand your body, your consciousness, and why you're really here. So, welcome back to the Expansion Room. I'm your host, Shervonlaurice, and today's conversation is one I have genuinely been waiting for because it really sits at the intersection of everything that I believe about healing, that the body is not separate from the soul, and that illness is often just a beginning, and that true healing requires more than a diagnosis and a prescription. It requires a return to self. So my guest today is Dr. Jonathan Locust Jr., and he is a researcher, a graduate professor, and the founder of ConsciRise, a community built to connect people with vetted holistic practitioners who are walking in authenticity and integrity. After years of outward success and inward depletion, Dr. J undertook a 24-day water fast that not only restored his health, but fundamentally expanded his understanding of who he is. And so now his work blends science, spirit, and strategy to help others rise into their wholeness. So, Dr. J, welcome to the Expansion Room, and I am glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, and also just thank you for all the work that you're doing to provide space for these types of conversations to happen. So thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. It is my pleasure. So my pleasure. So you were on the path, right, to becoming like a university president and doing the work at the time that you loved. And by all external measures, you were succeeding. So take us back to that moment when your body started telling you something different. What was the message? How long did you ignore it? And what made you finally listen?
Yeah, so it was actually it was pretty immediate. So kind of at that time, I was kind of everything was going well. Not like you mentioned, I got a new job. I had finished my PhD, so that was why I got this new job, VP position. I was getting married that October in Florida, when living in cold Minnesota. So it was really like a time where things kind of were going really, really well. And then I ended up like you mentioned, having some health issues. And when I went to the doctor, it was when the doctor had ended up basically telling me, and it came now that I think about it, like about a day or two later, because they do tests and things like that. And that's when I ended up finding out, after not having a history, but I ended up finding out that I had herpes. And for me, that was really the thing that really kind of was my, I would say, my linchpin, my method for me to be able to say, okay, like, how does this happen? Like this, I've been to have these tests before. How does this happen? So that was kind of really that moment. It was a moment of surprise, a moment of curiosity, a moment of frustration, a moment of fear, because I had to explain that like to my soon-to-be wife, right? So there was a lot of raw emotions, but I would say like the one that floated at the top was a determination of, we got to figure this out, and we're going to heal.
Indeed. And so where was the line between getting that diagnosis, wanting to heal, that led you to a fast? Because most people would not automatically think of that or come to that.
Yeah, so I don't want to make it seem like it was like within a few days, like,
Yeah.
like the light just started beaming and I understood everything. Cause that
Right.
wasn't it. It was more of, okay, kind of process what are more things that I'm familiar with, traditional ways that we could go about healing. And
Yeah.
I knew I really didn't want to be on pharmaceuticals for the rest of my life. I didn't, I
Mm-hmm.
just really didn't want that. So then you start looking at like other methods of healing. And since I was already kind of in that space of education, I was working with indigenous people.
Okay.
I was able to, there were already kind of questions, because, once you meet different people, you have different experiences, that can open the door to a number of different other questions that you can have. And so I was
Yes.
having these experiences of where I would learn different things that were actually research based, that I was kind of surprised, like, oh, I just didn't know about this. And it was really as I'm starting to learn more about this, but also I would say delve more into the mystical or the unknown space, to where I ended up coming across the Law of One, which we've talked about in previous conversations. And
Yeah.
it was really that book that really kind of gave in what I thought was a really good detail of not only how the mind, body, and spirit are connected,
Mm-hmm.
but the ways in which we can go about understanding the lessons that we need to learn from particular experiences, and how fasting can then be able to help aid in that process. And once they talked about that, of how when you fast, not only the body consumes itself, but you can also direct that consumption on the energetic and spiritual level to consume things that you feel like no longer serve you, or to be able to fast to be able to understand. So with fasting, as well as looking to see, why was it that I had this health issue? Why did I have this? And it was fasting to not only fast myself and cleanse myself from um, that the disease, the virus, but to also be able to fast for understanding of why I had it. And those were the kind of two things I was doing kind of at parallel, at the same time. But that was how I ended up learning about it.
Okay. And I guess we've talked about, especially on this show, the law of one, with a previous guest, and just a little bit. And so if you can give the audience, maybe as a reminder, what is the law of one?
Yeah. So I would say it would be a group of a series, probably a series of teachings that are philosophical. They could be perceived as spiritual,
Yeah.
metaphysical, in nature, that talks about really the connectedness. And so the whole book is about not how we all are one, we all are connected. We're on this process of spiritual development, and it gets to some specifics about different case studies of people's experiences, as well as different ways in which you can go about understanding that oneness and connectedness that we all have. And for me, it was when I came across that book, having come from a very religious background, but I'm also spending time with people who are Muslim, people who are Buddhist, people who are indigenous, and having people who are monk shamans. So and having a respect for a lot of these different perspectives. The law of one was what I kind of saw that was maybe an umbrella of beliefs that I thought was corollary to a lot of these other either religions or spiritual perspectives that were out there.
Yeah. When I stumbled onto the law of one, and it was during the pandemic, so of course we had nothing but time. And so, because that is not um, an easy read. I mean, the books are like this thick.
Dense. It's dense.
But when I stumbled on it, it reaffirmed what I had learned in my undergraduate studies. And I had changed my major to religious studies in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
And I came away from school realizing what you just explained, that all of us are connected. All of the religions have a message, a thread that runs through them all. pointing back to that very message. And so it was wonderful to find that book series and realize, oh, right. Yeah, it was like the reminder. It brought me back, and filled in some of the blanks for me. So, and they did talk about fasting, but I did not take the fasting to heart.
Well, I wasn't. Well, I also was in a place of desperation.
Right,
that's just
right.
honest. I was in a. So I
You were
was.
like,
I
look
was
here.
looking. I was searching. I was searching for
Exactly.
specific things. So that was how I came up about it. The fast.
Yeah. So you came into this dimension of looking at illness and fasting as spirituality. Like, what does this illness mean in the spiritual sense for my body as well as spirit? And what can fasting do in the spiritual sense for my body? Right. In that dimension.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, and that you're 100% right, because and that's one of the things that I think it was for me, and we talked about this even as I was reading the Law of One, which was different from my religious background. It was helpful to have things that just made sense, that were simple, and it's just like to me it just resonated that that if there are, which I do believe, if there are certain that thoughts do become things, and even if when you study like certain metaphysical things, or even like quantum physics, and even like a lot of those things, you really see there's a connectedness. So for me, it really wanted to really understand what was it at the core of why I actually had this. Why am I actually like, why do I have this experience? Like, if I came here, is this the experience that I came here for? And if so, why would I torture myself with this experience? And it became a question that each time that it wasn't answered, that I didn't feel like it was answered to as good of an extent, that I would just add more days to the fast.
Ah, so, okay, there you go. So you didn't start off with this mindset of 24-day water fast, because that is
No.
not a biohack or a trend that we see in anywhere in social media. It is a radical and, I would say, sacred act, right? To do undertake fasting in a conscious way. And we hear about fasting through other religions, right? Like the Muslims have a time of the year that they fast, which is Ramadan. I grew up in the Pentecostal tradition, and there was a 40-day fast, or was it 50-day fast, around the Easter time, as well. I know Jews that fast. And I know in the Hindu tradition, or in the Eastern tradition that's connected to yoga, there's a fasting protocol as well for certain times of the year, for certain religious holidays. So fasting is definitely not a new idea or a new concept. And it's not new that it's connected to spirituality, at least in the tradition that I grew up in, and the Muslims that I've known who practice fasting as well that time of the year. But what we're looking at here goes a little bit, I think, deeper, because we're talking also about consciousness. That it's not just connecting more to God and your sense of spirituality, and having a better understanding or a better connection to your spirituality and to God. But this is the inner workings of consciousness, which consciousness is awareness. It is what made us. It is the glue that holds us together. Many of us in our different religious backgrounds call it God. And in some spaces, it's just called source. In the Law of One, the one infinite creator, right? So we have different names for it, but at the end of the day, it is consciousness. And so in your experience, kind of walk us through how that 24 days led you deeper into consciousness.
Yeah, so I would say that during that time, like I mentioned, I worked my way up. So I started with like
Mhm.
3 days, then I did like
Mhm.
7, then I did like a 12, and each time I would, I would look and kind of do an assessment, like, do I think I've healed? And I was like, no. So I got to the point to where, as I'm on like kind of this extent, not really knowing how long I was going to go. It was just like, I'm
Mhm.
going to just go. This time I'm like, I'm just go until I'm healed. So I didn't have like all the other times I had like at least a number in mind. But
Yeah.
for this, I was like even watching YouTube videos of people who had done a 40-day fast. And I'm just like, okay,
Mhm.
if that's, I know I'm gonna have to lose a lot of weight. I know there's going to be people at work that are going to be asking a lot of questions,
Mhm.
which I was kind of already used to, going to, there's a buffet lunch and you're not eating. And they're like, you're not fasting? I didn't know you're a Muslim, Dr. Locust. I'm not. I'm doing something.
Right.
This is something completely different, So you have these different things that even work wise, because it does
Yeah.
there's an impact. So
Yeah.
for me, there were a few things that I really started to learn during that fast. I would say the first one was, and when you talk about consciousness and you talk about awareness, I started to then like really understand what that awareness meant. In the law of one, they will call it second density beings, but what our connection was to plants and animals. And
Mhm.
I would, for example, go on these long extended runs because I was still running and working out during this fast because I was another part of
Wow.
this.
Oh, wait, but
Yeah.
you still had the energy to to engage in physical exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I was like I said, I was really determined. I mean,
Wow.
we wanted to have like another child. We knew that if with this there was a huge risk. So I was pretty determined. So
Yeah.
I would work out, and I would, let's say, go on an 8 mile run, and I would say
Right.
like mentally intention, each step is a step towards healing. And I would think that I would get tired and I would be around like mile 3 or 4, and I would
Mhm.
just start thinking I'm running towards healing. And
All right.
after a while, it started. And I know it maybe sound corny, but that was kind of the thing that would motivate me. That would give me a few more steps. But as I would get tired, there would be like a butterfly that would just fly past me. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking I'm tired right now. I'm like really out of breath.
Mhm.
Okay, then but they would give me a little energy to just, okay, I can make it the next half a mile. And
Yeah.
then another butterfly. And then it would be a bird. And then it would be maybe a cricket. And then you see this happen where you see it's a pattern to where the universe is communicating with me or
Yeah.
letting me know like to continue on and keep running towards your healing. Then I was like, okay, well, since y'all like, help me out, these breaths I have is going to be for y'all, as I'm on this run.
Mm.
So it was this really, and I still do this to this day. I'll go on these runs and I'll just be like, all right, like I'll tell the trees I'm coming, y'all. I'm about to pass y'all. So y'all, when I get tired, y'all know y'all give me that energy. But it's really that relationship, and it still happens to where I'll see a bird, I'll see some type of animal, sand cranes. They have sand cranes where I'm at in Florida. These gray birds with like red beaks. They're absolutely beautiful, red kind of face. And
Okay.
I just see a family of them. So I started to see those things happen to where there was, like you mentioned, a greater awareness, and then
Mhm.
that awareness also extended to where it hit me. It took me back to a childhood experience to where I was sexually molested by older women when I was a child,
Okay.
and it showed me that was essentially was the start of how that actually came to develop in my body. And it was so interesting because I had always knew that had happened, but it was just something that was just there. Like you
Yeah.
like kind of when you get your first car, you're happy, it's just there. And this was kind of an experience that wasn't, but it was just there, it was just there. And but started to be able to see the impact of that experience. And through that experience, my actions and all of these different things that started to come. So during that process, there was a process of forgiveness to where I forgave the women who did that to me, forgave myself for not being truthful and transparent at certain times for what I did, and all of these different things that I was able to see at kind of at the core of that experience of being introduced to a high vibrational topic like sex in a low vibrational manner, in a sneaky manner, in a non-transparent manner, in a low vibrational manner, really set my perspective, which had kind of caused myself to develop this thing that was in my body. So after going through that process of understanding that, and then going through that process of forgiveness, I was like, I think this is it. I think I can be done now. And that's when after that 24 days, I retested and I had completely healed myself.
All right. There we go. And so fasting in a lot of ways it's like your body is a portal, and fasting creates space for consciousness to move in a different way, for awareness to move in a different way. Yeah. How beautiful that awareness was for you. And do you feel like you were then able to apply broader consciousness, broader awareness to other areas in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Because, when something like that happens to where, you heal yourself from something that traditional medicines say that you can't heal yourself from, there's a energy that's like, man, what else they been lying about?
Yeah.
So it lights a fire. It kind of lights a curiosity. And that's what it was for me is, okay, so if this thing that I thought was really kind of small that had happened to me that I think can have impact, then it start to ask myself, then what are other experiences that I had that I may be ignoring or maybe have not taken a magnifying glass to that are impacting the way I act? Or maybe if I did know about them, they would maybe allow me to balance it and to be able to just see the more love in a moment and just act in a high vibrational manner. So that's really what it was for me is that awareness. And I also believe too, as you start to, balance things and heal things, and that energy gets removed, there's a replacement where, especially with intention for just higher vibrational concepts to then be able to go, grow, live in you. Since that part has been balanced, to kind of to fill that space. So that's what I really kind of thought about it was okay. There's a piece of me that has been healed, but that space can be. I can put something in that space that's just high vibrational that can then allow me to just elevate higher.
Yeah, there you go. And maybe that is the whole purpose, really, of what fasting can be used for, right? It's that level of expansion. Because once it's the law of the universe that once you remove something, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. You have to put something else in, right? And so why not put something else at a higher vibrational point? Yeah. Yeah. That is the elevation that I think that as human beings, as a collective consciousness, we are looking for. But right now, we are very distracted as a set of humans.
Well, there's a lot of distractions. there's a lot of them, and I when you really start to see like how not only how other cultures use fasting, but even how even previous cultures would even eat, right? And even spending time with indigenous people, like it wasn't like they would just kind of have these 3 kind of meals a day like we've been set up to, because we know there's been like Edward Bernays, like one of the reasons why we eat breakfast, but he was hired by the farming unions or the farmers. So like when you look at like indigenous lifestyles and things, they would be kind of eating throughout the day, and they would like get a few berries, go hunt, and they would have these meals, but it wasn't just kind of just sit down, eat a lot, and it would be you would do these things, but also you would that I got from it was you would practice spirituality throughout the day, and that spirituality would be practiced, whether there was a fasting or there was some type of and when I say fasting or sacrifice, right, that you're not getting something that you normally would do. These were all part of, how they were living, and that was really kind of open for me. What that was also helpful was, yes, like I was even at that time, and I still do meditate in the morning, but this kind of perspective of spirituality being able to be practiced throughout the day, and not necessarily an hour and a half before I go to work, or a few barrels before I go to bed. And fasting was also one of the things that helped me understand that awareness, especially when you're hungry, right? You're hungry, and then or a commercial come on and the pizza looking extra cheesy, and you hungry, right? And you got to sit in that, right? You got to like, where's the awareness at now? I'm looking at a double pepperoni stuffed crust, and I'm starving. Where's the awareness? And you ask these questions, and you'll get an answer. You will get an answer.
I love it. I would have to not watch TV during that time. I can't. I cannot. That is way too tempting. I now understand why people like go to ashrams or go out to live in, like, Jesus went to the wilderness to fast. It's like separate yourself from all the smells of the food.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Now, I think when we've talked in the past, we've also talked about things like other behavioral models, past life regression, hypnosis. How do those kinds of things play into this fasting model for you?
Yeah. So for me, kind of after really experiencing like the power of fasting that I was received, but also the research on fasting is out there, and it's there's a reason so many cultures is taught to so many cultures and people, because there's health benefits. So for me, there was really a shift from fasting as a way of not only health, but for consciousness, then becomes a part of my lifestyle. So then I just do it consistently. So I normally fast at the end of every month, 3 to 5 days, do like a water fast. And then I'll do tea at night. So a non-caffeinated tea is normally like a nice gift to myself at the end of the day. So I'll do water and water all day, and then the tea in the evening. So that's what fasting has then become more of a lifestyle. And then during those times, fasting for different themes. So right now I'm fasting for awareness. Last month I was fasting for abundance. And when we're doing it, and that abundance, not only in these harsh economic times, monetary abundance, but also the abundance to be able to see love in the moment, and so there's a number of different ways. So I've incorporated this fasting, but then fasting for different reasons. What is my intention for my fast? And then to also talk about, like, your other question, I like to read about things, then I like to actually do it and then explore. So once I have enough information that I feel like I understand the intention behind things, the people who created, what was their intention, and once I feel comfortable, then I go forward. So then once kind of you talk about replacing, right? So there were certain behaviors that I had that fasting replaced. And then so as fasting then replaced some of those behaviors and things that I was doing with my time, right? And that could just be just eating a lot or emotional eating, right? But it replaces something with higher vibrational. So then what's next in line? So then for me, it was then what are other modalities that could be used to elevate consciousness that are research backed, as well as things that I would be able to access in my geographical location. And when you think about that, hypnosis becomes one of those. There's a lot of great research on hypnosis. So after reading the Journey of Souls books, I read all three of those books, Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, and that whole series. And then from that series, after reading that, I found a Michael Newton practitioner who had the requisite training, and then went to him to then be able to experience my moments of hypnosis, which were life-changing, gave a lot of wonderful information that I still think about to this day, and that is a constant reminder that we're on a consistent path of evolution.
Yeah, we really are. Sometimes it feels slow, but I guess evolution is that. But we are, if you're alive, you are, in your DNA and your wiring, you are meant to expand. You are meant to evolve. You are meant to grow. Yeah. Yeah. I love
And I think,
hypnosis. Hypnosis is definitely, if I had not already been on my conscious evolution path, I would have never stepped into hypnosis. I'd have been like, oh, absolutely not. No. But as you're talking about it, as we continue to evolve and expand and allow ourselves to step into healing, the world opens up for us. And we can say yes to more.
absolutely. And not only, saying, yes to more, but even understanding like the ways that could possibly impact you, because everything, hypnosis is not going to resonate with everybody, just like fasting may not. But there are things that can actually resonate with you, and I think that's why it is important to be able to not only try things, investigate with things. Like I even mentioned, after reading the Law of One, there was some time where I was a part of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and practicing spiritual based magic. That was another thing. So really, a lot of the things that I would experience would come by way of research. So a lot of my research in spiritual magic came from learning about Enochian magic, which came from my curiosity in Enoch. From my religious perspective, and there's the relationship between Enochian magic and Enoch. Then you start to read a lot of these things, and you're like, this isn't negative. Like none of this is negative. Like this is actually, it's positive, and it's essentially a curriculum, a process to understand the oneness and the connectedness between our planets, our solar system, the astrological. So that was another thing. I mentioned hypnosis, but also spiritual magic was also really important. By again understanding or having I don't want to say understanding, but having a better understanding, because I'm still trying to understand a better understanding of the ebbs and flows of the universe, and how these major times in human development, there was a certain arrangement of the planets, and those planets represent certain things. So you start to kind of chart all of this stuff out to see there is a supreme intelligence that a lot of times is and I think where a lot of times there's a disservice is to where there's all these different mechanisms that contribute to oneness, and that are research backed, but are sometimes hidden from us, or told that we should not learn about these for for whatever reason, right? Whatever those reasons are, but are there. And I think that's why you see such an exodus of people moving more in spiritual direction, because they're investigating these things. Like they're not really negative. They are, some of these things are positive. So like, and actually spiritual magic being one of them. Because if I would have thought about kind of my biblical perspectives of, and I'll say like how the Bible was interpreted in our congregation, this would have been perceived as negative. But when you look at,
mine too.
yeah, right. But you look at these things and you just read a little bit more, and there's knowledge there, there's information there. And even the Magi, right?
They knew back in the day, even in Jesus's time, they knew a lot of this knowledge.
The Magi were astrologers, right? So
astrologers,
they knew he was coming, right? So then, but that just gets completely over.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't anything we talked about in Vacation Bible School. But so and then the last thing I'll say too, from a cultural perspective. Spending time with indigenous people, it was recommended, which was probably one of the best recommendations, was to understand my ethnic spirituality and what was the spiritual practices of my ethnicity. And I also studied ancient Africa, ancient Egypt, Kemet, and those were also things that were helpful to for me to understand that we were doing things, there were practices that were being done before the certain religious practices that were taught to me. And again, I'm not saying any of those are wrong, but what are those other things that were done? And and should we learn about them?
Absolutely. I like you, I was just sharing this with someone today, and he is an actual ordained minister. He's no longer, how do you say, heading a flock, because the work that he does, he has stepped into psychedelics. And some churches don't like that.
Yes. Yep.
But I was sharing with him, in my undergrad, I had changed my major to religious studies and studied all the world religions and realized there was this wonderful thread that ran through them all. And it helped me to better understand my Christian upbringing. But what really brought it home for me, and I've told many people this, was my studies in yoga and yoga philosophy, particularly the 5 years that I was a student of Tantra yoga. When I took that deep dive into the thing that they would say is devil worship and you should not do in the denomination I grew up in, that's what I understood everything that I was taught in the Bible. And the broader sense of it, because there's a lot that was left out of the 66 books. The way it's canonized, there are other books, there are other scriptures, there are other ways to better understand the translations of those scriptures. But if you only focus on those 66 books, King James Version or beyond, you're going to miss some key information, even information that Jesus himself spoke. And we don't get to go farther back, like you mentioned. That there are things that we are not taught based on our, as you said, our genetics. It's like, oh, culturally, I've asked that same question. Culturally, what were my people actually studying, right? What were they practicing? In this book that I've read a couple of years ago called The Immortality Key, they talk about the religion that came before Christianity, before the rise of the Roman Catholic Church. They describe it as the religion that had no name, and it was practiced all over the earth. Right? Yeah. But those are the things that are left out. But when you allow yourself to, as you did, expand consciousness, you are then able to hold more. and
Yeah.
see the line that runs through it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So the body, this fasting process that you started with and continue to move through, your body has become like a portal, as it's actually designed to be, right? Your body has become a portal, and it has taught you about who you are in a lot of ways, it sounds like. And so if anybody was to ask you, who are you? What would your answer be these days?
Oh man, that's a that's a good question, and it's one that I'm not sure. I have an answer. I don't know if it's a good answer, but it's one that I'm consistently doing research on. That even like I mentioned at the start of this, like I'm on a second day of a 3-day water fast
Mm-hmm.
right now. So, and I'm actually fasting for greater awareness. So I would say like, who am I? I would say I'm a person who's curious. I like to learn about stuff. I like to understand, and I'm also, I would say, spiritual. And when I say spiritual, not meaning in regards to practices, because I do have spiritual practices, but just really being interested in talking about and learning about different spiritual systems, and different spiritual modalities. And I think on the flip side of that, I mentioned well, you notice my PhD is in is in research.
Yeah.
So and we do I have a company that does like predictive research and things like that. So on one hand, there's a part of my brain that is so focused on evidence and being able to see what's not there, and to do that in a way whether we're predicting jury outcomes. So there's this very kind of this analytical side that really wants to either quantify these different concepts so I can better understand them. And there's this curiosity to I think really understand the forces or things that are seen and unseen that drives behavior.
Hmm. Nice. And that curiosity carries into all the things you do. Yeah.
It does.
I love it. I love it. So tell us a little bit about building ConsciRise and the community that you're creating as a healing container. How did that come about?
Yeah, so like as I mentioned during my process of learning about fasting, during that healing process, I was just reaching out to a number of different just people, and people who were saying they could do certain things. And I ended up learning that pretty quickly that people will try to scam you in your kind of vulnerable moments.
Yes.
And I think that I was very naive, thinking like, higher education has accreditation, healthcare system will have like the Joint Commission and things like that to kind of make sure people don't get scammed, or you can maybe share if you get scammed with somebody. And I saw like that doesn't exist. So on the process of greater awareness and understanding, like trying to seek to understand, like, what do I actually want to do? As I learned that I really didn't want to be a university president. But that problem of me not being able to find or locate what I thought was a very vetted and trusted directory of practitioners from different backgrounds and modalities that were research backed. And I couldn't find that. I looked. So I kind of wondered, like, well, for one, has what happened to me happened to other people? And have there been other people who have been scammed? And went on to learn that there's been over 8 million people scammed out of over $3 billion in pursuit of these types of services. So this became, then I can kind of say from a business perspective, to say this is a problem where you have people who legitimately want services, and they're being taken advantage of because there's not a system in place or systems in place to make sure that that's protecting these consumers. So ConsciRise really became a way of having a platform to where we can have practitioners representing a number of different modalities, hypnosis, integrative coaching, energy, Reiki, sound, music therapy, all of these kind of shamanism, these different modalities, but with people who are practicing for a particular kind of scope of work. That way, as people are going through certain things, you maybe have not considered how dealing with maybe a monk shaman could be of help or service if you're going through the loss of a loved one or that. And you may not know because it's just never been offered on the buffet list. So now we're putting stuff on the buffet list where people have an option. So that was really kind of started the way of being able to have these practitioners that people are currently being scammed for, and then to be able to have ways that they can then be able to find people if they want. So we have a concierge service to where people basically fill out a short intake form, and based on that intake form, we give them 3 to 5 practitioners that could be of service to them. And we also have like different experiential events. So right now we do a monthly fasting experience at the end of every month. And then we also have different community events that are completely free because we believe that spirituality and these things should be free. So we have some free programming and things you can attend. And if you want other things where you maybe want to work with somebody, we got options like that for you as well. So we wanted to just really be able to serve as that mechanism of trust, and a way that we can be able to have a way we can protect consumers from being able to be scammed when they're looking at things that are kind of outside of these more traditional systems that we've been used to.
Okay. And so how do you all then go about, I guess, vetting the people that you would refer?
Yeah. So we have a 5-step vetting process to where there's an interview with me. There's an interview with one of the other people who her name is Rhonda. She kind of oversees our practitioner relations. They fill out an application. We do a background check. And depending on kind of after going through all of that, that's then when we decide if they're kind of in alignment with what ConsciRise is looking for. And I'm not trying to give like statistics like universities will say. They would say we have a high denial rate, right? So they're looking more prestigious. So that's not, but we do have people that we have said either not at this time or that are not necessarily fully in alignment. So anybody who was saying that they heal people and they don't recognize that the actual person is doing the healing and you, the practitioner, is just the gateway. Those are things that immediately is not going to get you on a platform. If people talk about I'm going around healing people, absolutely not. So I would say that we talk about that from our process. And then on the second tier, as we're looking at people's credentials, their certifications, their degrees, even in those mechanisms, those modalities where there may not be a process to become a Hmong shaman. Then from knowing much detail about that culture, we're then able to really understand where that particular role sits within that culture, if that person is real or not. So we know like a Hmong shaman, they would sit on certain arts boards. And we know that from knowing about the Hmong culture. So even in those aspects, we do a lot of research to make sure that the people that are on there are real, they're vetted, and then are also doing things to, like, in education or things, or even certain social fields, you have to do continuous education. So we ask, like, what are people doing to maintain and make sure they're learning more and continuously learning what is out there?
Okay. That is it's a very detailed process. Yeah. Because it's not allowing people to just slip in. It's not, here's my website, put your profile up, and you can go on about your way.
Yeah, and that's kind of one thing that we were, even when you look at models that make money, right? Or I would
Mhm.
say, and like so, I give an example of like there's certain ones that are just they're marketing companies.
Yeah.
So essentially, what they do is you pay a fee to put your service up there, and then they try to sell it. But for us, like practitioners, it doesn't cost any money to be on ConsciRise because we feel like if you're on the same vibrational wavelength, then
Mhm.
we want people who are on a vibrational wavelength, right? So
Right.
but we felt like having having a background working in accreditation in higher education, those processes are very specific. And for us, we think those are something that can be helpful, especially as consumers are they have a number of different options. So we want to be upfront with what our process is. We want to let them know, for one, we have a process. For two, is detailed. And for three, we adhere to our process. That
Mhm.
way they can go about, if they are looking for someone like us, they can at least find us by way of the vetting and that we do.
Okay. Nice. And so for you, where do you see this link between the work that you're doing now with ConsciRise, fasting in general as well, and consciousness moving forward into the future?
Yeah. So I would say for me in the future, my goal really is to um, give people the opportunity to fast in the community who are interested. Because fasting can be difficult, but when you're fasting with other people, it's helpful. So
Yeah.
that was something that we really want to do is, and even during the fast, we want people to like, in the church that say, come in your own way, right?
Yes.
So,
That's
so,
right.
so, so whether that means for you, uh, a 1 day fast or a fast from maybe because we got some people who are like, I'm fasting from sugar. I'm struggling with sugar. I'm going to fast. So whatever it is that is for you,
Hmm.
we just want to be able to support that. So that would say for us is growing and fasting. Another part is understanding that, and we didn't talk about this, but
Hmm.
of my process of learning, I start to understand that, of course, how thoughts become things. And so I think about ConsciRise becoming what it is. And ConsciRise is consciousness. How can I not only help a ConsciRise is consciousness and as well as my own? So I look at it as us being on a process of trying to be able to be a service to as many people as possible, um, and to be able to be there for people who are making more of that transition from more religious based perspectives to more spiritual based perspectives. And we
Yeah.
feel like one of our goals could be is for people who are like I was, and I'm just kind of looking at my process as well as others who I know who were um, previously more religious who would now consider themselves more spiritual. And as I kind of documented that process, a lot of it becomes as you're kind of battling between should I be reading this? Should I not be reading this? Is this of God? Is this not of God? Research helps with that cognitive dissonance. And we feel like we want to be able to position ourselves to provide people research and the research that's out there that may be a little less unknown, we can then share that and then be of aid as people are looking more internally for the source or the creator inside of them.
Okay. I love it. Do you have any last thoughts or words that you would like to leave for the audience?
Yeah, I would say, we talked today. We kind of talked about some well, some could say could maybe be some extreme things like so fasting, I know my wife pretty much says she's not doing hypnosis. She's just not on that. So we know like certain things is not for everybody. But what I will say is that, during any time that we may be feeling stressed, we may be feeling down, one modality we can always do is just close our eyes and just breathe. And just breathe with that intention of either looking or trying to understand where is the love in the moment, where is it at? And if you spend time looking during a hard or difficult situation, you will find it. So I would say, out of all the things we talked about, whether it's hypnosis, whether it's magic, whether it's fasting, we have the ability to breathe and the ability to be able to take a moment, to take a second to just look and see where's that source, that creator inside of me. And you can do that for free. You don't got to pay for that. And you can do that anytime. And so I would say to do that as many of the times of the day as possible as you need, as you see fit. So that would be my words is we talked about some extreme things, but there's very simple ways to just take a breath, close your eyes, or leave them open, whatever you down with. But just to be able to just take that breath and just find the love in the moment.
Yeah. Connect to that love in the moment. I love it. Yeah. Perfect. Well, Dr. J, this has been the conversation that I was hoping we would have. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So you can find me at ConsciRise.com. So ConsciRise.com. We have a community that is completely free that you can be a part of. And then Instagram, TikTok at Locust Jr. That's JLOCUSTJR. Also on LinkedIn, YouTube. And love to engage in these topics. So add me, connect with me, and let's continue building consciousness together.
Perfect. Absolutely. And to my audience, thank you for tuning in to this conversation. I think this is an important conversation because we are hearing more and more about fasting out in mainstream conversation. And, usually it's called intermittent fasting. But there is a deeper level to go with it. And so if anything that you heard today in this episode has stirred something in you, I would invite you to not ignore that, to allow yourself to open towards that and to take it seriously. Your body and your mind are not your enemy, and they can be powerful portals or gateways into a deeper connection with consciousness and awareness. And so I invite you to take that dive. And if this episode has moved you in a way that allows you to share it with someone that you think needs it, then please pass it on. And I invite you to also leave a review on whichever platform you are watching or listening, because it helps us out as we grow this podcast. And I look forward to meeting you all here back in the expansion room. Take care. Thanks for watching. If you are ready to move beyond survival into greater alignment, greater clarity, and transformation, I'd love to support you. An alignment call is where that journey begins. Take a moment, click the link in the show notes, and schedule your alignment call with me, and let's explore what's possible for you together.